Book, The Awakening of Man. Author, Samael Aun Weor. Even worse, the one who takes possession of the red sulfur will have the elixir of long life, the universal medicine, and the power to transmute lead into gold. Gnosis, science and culture to reach God. Man is so close to God that only the mind stands in between. Samael Aun Weor, the avatar of the new Aqua era. Preface. Being disoriented is not difficult, it's being one among many, a unit that consumes, a slave in the service of darkness. Vices, pleasures, sorrows, desolation, and death. In this small book, you will find guidance to know who you are. Gnostic wisdom gives you the starting point, the lever Archimedes sought to move the universe. That fulcrum is your own body. Learn to know it, and you will move the universe. The education we receive is entirely material, it provides basic knowledge for our behavior in society and the handling of things accepted as known by man. Our organism has 5 senses, our informants, the instruments at our service for knowledge. Intellectual knowledge corresponds to reading, accumulating in our memory to serve us and partially transform our physical organism, opening the way to acquiring a strong personality. However, these senses do little for the powers of the inner master. We, Gnostics, use these 5 senses but improve them for accurate reports. We also use 7 more senses to understand the vehicle we inhabit, the physical body. Knowing its functions thoroughly and learning to govern it, we possess the fulcrum to move the universe. In this book, the 3 factors of the revolution of consciousness are discussed. These factors liberate our consciousness. For us, consciousness corresponds to life lived through hundreds of existences in the spirit's pilgrimage through the material, passing through 3 kingdoms, mineral, vegetable, and animal. Religions call this wisdom the soul, stored in the 33 vertebrae canons, improving external and internal senses. When man reaches the human state, he acquires the gift of free will to choose between good and evil. However, his senses are entirely wrong due to acquired defects called sins. To improve our senses, we make a list of our defects, analyze them, and realize we can live without them. Anger is hatred, and one who hates sins against the Son, which is love. A person who hates can never feel the grace of love to handle the forces of nature. Lies are sins against the Father, truth, preventing the receipt of gifts like peace and wisdom. The more one lies, the more imperfect their senses become, distancing them from the sought being. The book also discusses scientific activity, harnessing creative energy entirely. Gnostic wisdom teaches transforming our own seed into light and fire. With this fire's light, we can exit the labyrinth formed through misoriented existences, form the inner Christ in our hearts, and conquer the angelic or demonic path, or at least become a Superman. If a Superman has the power to produce an organism as complex as the human body, imagine what we can do with the millions reserved to give ourselves life. Here, we understand the wisdom of transubstantiation and holy anointing, the 3rd factor of service to humanity, producing dharma, currency diametrically opposed to karma. This capital allows us to heal the sick and perform incalculable miracles. Read this little book, occasional reader, and be sure you have come across wisdom that can turn you into a Superman, giving you the power to break all chains binding to vices and pleasures, paths leading to devastation. Here is the fulcrum I asked from Archimedes to move the universe. Julio Medina Vizcaino. Gnostic Christian Universal Movement. Chapter 1, What is Gnosis? All theory is grey, and the green tree of golden fruits, life, is Gnosis. Gnosis means knowledge and wisdom. Gnosis is the knowledge of a transcendental and transformative wisdom that teaches humanity to see, hear, and feel all things previously marked as great mysteries and enigmas. Gnosis is a true scientific school of initiation into life, pursuing a transformation of the human being from its basic principles and customs, making it a true human. Gnosis itself aims for each person to have a vast and lucid spirit, attempting to establish a new rational, scientific order in general living customs, inspired by the immutable laws of nature. The knowledge of Gnostic science encompasses the 4 pillars of human knowledge: science, art, philosophy, and mysticism. Gnosis, as a lifestyle and mystical philosophy, is based on the rational and scientific conception of the universe. Gnosticism appears in times of social and spiritual disturbance as a significant ideological current for human transformation, physically, psychically, socially, and spiritually, allowing self-discovery, understanding one's defects and errors leading prematurely to aging, the grave, and disintegration. This wisdom is found in the mysteries of Mithra, Eleusis, Hermeticism, Dionysius, Hecate, the Great Mother, Serapis, Cybele, Isis, Orpheism, Pythagoreanism, and in Egyptian and Tibetan books. Gnosis develops within Christianity, known as primitive or esoteric Christianity, later dissolving into numerous sects that turned into secret societies as esotericism grew stronger. When man begins to observe himself closely from the angle of being not one but many, obviously, he has begun the serious work on his inner nature. Gnosis provides the methodology and teaches the modus operandi through which one can be assisted by forces superior to the mind. In ancient times, it was said, "Know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe," formulated by synthesizing all theories. It is superior knowledge, clear that there are rare exceptions today, which we must seek with Diogenes' lantern. These rare cases are represented by true men such as Buddha, Jesus, Hermes, Quetzalcoatl, etc. The machine man is the most unhappy beast in this valley of tears. Yet, he has the pretension and even the insolence to self-title as the king of nature. I don't know this ipsum, know thyself. This is an ancient golden maxim written on the walls of Delphi in ancient Greece. The poor intellectual animal, mistakenly called a man, has invented thousands of complicated and difficult machines. He well knows that to use a machine, one needs years of study and learning. But when it comes to himself, he completely forgets this fact, even though he is a more complicated machine than all he has invented. No man is without completely false ideas about himself, and the most serious thing is that he refuses to realize that he is truly a machine. The human machine has no freedom of movement, it functions solely through multiple and varied inner influences and external collisions. All movements, acts, words, ideas, emotions, feelings, and desires of the human machine are provoked by external influences and multiple, strange, and difficult inner causes. The intellectual animal is a poor talking puppet with memory and vitality, a living doll with the foolish illusion that it can do, when in reality, it can do nothing. Imagine that this puppet can change owners at any moment. Each owner is a different person with their own criteria, ways of enjoying, feeling, living, etc. etc. Any owner, wanting to make money, will press certain buttons, and then the puppet will dedicate itself to business. Another owner, half an hour or several hours later, will have a different idea and make his puppet dance and laugh. 1/3 will make it fight, 1/4 will make it fall in love with a woman, 1/5 will make it fall in love with another, 1/6 will make it quarrel with a neighbor and create a police problem, and 1/7 will make it change residence. So, dear reader, the poor intellectual animal is a mechanical puppet like our example. It believes it is doing when, in reality, it does nothing. It is a puppet of flesh and bone, controlled by a legion of subtle energy entities that together constitute what is called the ego, pluralized self, Satan, psychological self, or defects. Chapter 2, The Awakening of Consciousness. It is urgent that we know that humanity lives with dormant consciousness. People work while dreaming, people walk the streets while dreaming. People are born, live, and die while dreaming. When we conclude that the whole world lives asleep, we understand the need to awaken. We need the awakening of consciousness, we want the awakening of consciousness. People often confuse consciousness with intelligence or intellect, and a very intelligent or intellectual person is labeled as very conscious. We affirm that man's consciousness is undoubtedly, without fear of deceiving ourselves, a very particular kind of apprehension of inner knowledge, entirely independent of all mental activity. The faculty of consciousness gives us a comprehensive knowledge of what is, where it is, what is genuinely known, and what is truly ignored. Revolutionary psychology teaches that only man himself can come to know himself. Only we can know if we are conscious at any given moment or not. Man himself, and no one else but him, can realize for an instant, for a moment, that before that instant, before that moment, he was not really conscious, his consciousness was very asleep. Afterward, he will forget that experience or keep it as a memory, like the memory of a strong experience. It is urgent to know that consciousness in the rational animal is not something continuous, permanent. Normally, consciousness in the intellectual animal called man sleeps deeply. Moments when consciousness is awake are rare, very rare. The intellectual animal works, drives carts, gets married, dies, etc., with consciousness entirely asleep, and only in very exceptional moments does it wake up. Human life is a life of dreams, but he believes he is awake and will never admit that he is dreaming, that his consciousness is asleep. If someone were to awaken, he would feel terribly ashamed of himself, immediately understanding his charade, his ridiculousness. This life is terribly ridiculous, horribly tragic, and rarely sublime. Gnostic teachings aim to awaken consciousness. 10 or 15 years of study in school, college, and university are useless if, upon leaving the classrooms, we are sleeping automatons. It is not an exaggeration to say that through some great effort, the intellectual animal can be conscious of himself for only a couple of minutes. Chapter 3. Eliminating negative emotions is never an easy task. Losing all identification with our own way of life, problems of all kinds, business, debts, mortgage payments, telephone, etc. This identification with our problems causes us to be absorbed in ourselves, fascinated by our problems. It is necessary to stop dreaming, it is necessary to awaken consciousness. This process of awakening must be carried out at all times, in all places. The human being not only dreams when his physical body sleeps but also dreams when his physical body does not sleep. When one remembers oneself, works on oneself, does not identify with all the problems and sorrows of life, one is truly on the vertical path. Working on oneself is the fundamental characteristic of psychological rebellion, of the transformation of the human being. It deals with a certain transformation of the present moment in which we find ourselves. We need to learn to live from moment to moment, to live in full tension, in full self-observation of ourselves, to live alert to what we think, feel, and act. It is definitive, we must stop dreaming, living fascinated, identified with all the problems. A good example is the case of Maria, who is walking down the street and does not hear a friend's greeting at the precise moment she is saying in her mind, "In the afternoon, I will pay the dressmaker." In this case, Maria did not receive her friend's greeting due to a lack of consciousness in what she is doing, as her thoughts are on her problems. Chapter 4. As one works on oneself, the need to radically eliminate everything from one's inner nature that makes us so abominable is increasingly understood. The sense of intimate self-observation is atrophied in every human being. Working seriously, self-observing from moment to moment, this sense develops progressively. Before the sense of intimate self-observation, each of those egos that inhabit our interior truly assumes this or that figure secretly, in accordance with the defect personified by it. Inevitably, the image of each of these egos has a certain unmistakable psychological flavor, through which we instinctively capture its intimate nature and the defect that characterizes it. It is necessary to take notes on our daily psychological states if we truly want to change definitively. Before going to sleep, it is advisable to examine the events of the day, embarrassing situations, the loud laughter, and subtle smiles. We have much to eliminate and much to acquire. It is necessary to take inventory to know how much we have excess and how much we lack. It is clear that the pluralized self, our defects, are unnecessary and harmful. If we want to stop being machines, if we want to awaken consciousness, have true capacity to act, it is urgent to start by knowing ourselves and then dissolve the psychological self, the defects. When the pluralized self is dissolved, only the true being remains. A great man, after studying himself, discovered that he had 12 defects that were harming him. This man said, "Just as it is impossible to catch 12 hares at the same time because a hunter attempting it would catch none, so it is also impossible to end my 12 defects at the same time." This man concluded that it would be better to eliminate them one by one. First a defect, and then another, decided to dedicate 2 months to each defect. When the man reached 24 months, he no longer had defects. He had finished with the defects that had prevented him from reaching triumph. The result was marvelous. This man became the first citizen of the United States. His name, Benjamin Franklin. The Gnostic teaching provides the necessary method to end defects. Chapter 5. Attention must be divided into 3 aspects: subject, object, and place. We must comprehend the wave, the significance of the moment in which we are acting. For example, observing a filmmaker carefully. If he is asleep in his seat, he ignores everything, even himself. He seems hollow, like a sleepwalker, dreaming of the movie. He has forgotten himself, falling into the deep sleep of fantasy, unaware of his existence or identity. Conscious attention excludes what is called identification. When we identify with people, things, or ideas, fascination arises, leading to sleep in consciousness. We must internally ask ourselves, "Who am I?" the subject. Consciously ask to know that we exist, touch ourselves, feel ourselves. Then the object, realize what we are doing to avoid the error of falling asleep. Consciousness must question the reason for the action. For example, what am I doing? This must be done mentally. Now comes the third aspect, the place. It is vital to ask where we are, observe the surroundings, the colors of objects. Fascinated humans forget themselves. We must self-remember in the presence of any representation that may fascinate us. Pause before all representations, asking ourselves, "Who am I? What am I doing? Where am I?" Then inquire, "Am I in the physical plane, or am I outside my body?" If people live asleep day and night, they cannot know the astral state or differentiate the third dimension from the fourth dimension, the world of dreams. They can only know by practicing consciousness awakening, dividing attention into 3 aspects, consciously entering the world of dreams. There, we will find the answers we always needed to fill the inner void. In the astral or dream world, things appear as they do in the physical plane. People, during sleep and after death, see everything there similarly to the physical world, often unaware of being outside the physical body. Self-remembering is crucial. In the first aspect, Maria Luz Fajardo questions the subject to be aware of existence in any dimension, observing and touching her body to feel secure and avoid fascination. In the second aspect, Maria Luz questions her objective, what she is doing. Anyone practicing the 3 aspects must consciously ask, for example, if working, say, "I am working," or if eating, say, "I am eating," providing clear reasons for actions. Mentally question the third aspect, where we are. It is important to be conscious of our location, observing surroundings, colors, avoiding distraction. The Quetzalcoatl Cultural Institute Chapter 6 emphasizes the need to ask the 3 aspects and jump constantly to avoid fascination, determining if we are in the physical or astral body. Practicing this allows conscious entry into the dream world, discovering the answers to fill the inner void. Chapter 7 discusses the patience and tenacity required for Gnostic students. Powers come at a cost, demanding faith and excluding skeptics, as occult science is demanding. The external man consists of the physical body, astral soul, and intimate spirit. The soul, or consciousness, leaves the physical body during dreams. The soul must learn to enter and exit the physical body at will. The conditions to awaken consciousness involve suffering, silence, abstaining, and dying. For astral projection practice, lie down, close your eyes, relax, concentrate on the mantram mantra, and mentally elongate it. The disciple will appear in the astral world with practice. Results may vary, requiring consistency. The student, when out of the physical body, gains insight into life and death mysteries, contacts White Lodge masters, obtaining keys to hidden knowledge. Chapter 8 emphasizes understanding personal misery, vanity, and pain, starting the process of dying from moment to moment. Death of the psychological self and defects allows the birth of true conscious being, granting authority. Awakening, dying, and internal rebirth are the three psychological phases leading to true conscious existence. To perfect spiritually, three factors are vital: eliminating defects, alchemically transmuting energy, and serving humanity. These factors lead to true spiritual development, the only spiritual path. Chapter 9 addresses the puppetry of human beings by egos or defects. Humanity, controlled by egos, experiences wars, bloodshed, plagues, and other atrocities, the current punishment for its actions. Humans serve as instruments for ego-driven acts, and afterward, their conscience begins to lament. The person used as an instrument claims not to know when they became brutish. The brain is the transmitting organ, the organ that receives and distributes orders to the body according to the dominant defect in our mind at that moment. The brain is the control center of the physical body, and of the 100% of orders it issues to the physical body, 99% are controlled by the psychological self. Rarely does a person receive a call for mercy, love, or harmony. When we experience moments of love, it is because the true Christic being within us, or the small portion of consciousness that constitutes only 3% of what we have, has penetrated the brain in the absence of defects to give us a signal of help or a breath of peace. However, this doesn't last long, as the ego is so perverse that it prevents us from realizing the existence of a powerful Christic molecule within us. The current humanity no longer wants more theories, laws, or lies. It wants to break free from the vicious circle that surrounds it and discover the truth of existence. Throughout time, humans have misused the faculties given to them by the divine hierarchy, acquiring consciousness only by denying themselves and eliminating defects. The human being is filled with lunar molecules, completely negative. Jesus, the great rabbi, transformed his lunar body into a solar body, symbolized by artists portraying him without a shadow. This signifies the elimination of defects or ko's to cleanse the body and attain solar light. Until we eradicate all the demons within us through alchemical transmutation, we won't achieve a solar body. With Gnostic teachings, one can clearly see internal, astral, and soul-related aspects. The physical body is never alone, there are 6 more bodies, and during sleep, they escape, encountering the astral in dreams. Awakening consciousness allows us to see and connect with them. The practical school of life helps us discover the inner selves we carry. Prayer, observation, judgment, and execution are the basic factors for dissolution. Observing oneself allows a ray of light to penetrate within. Every incident, however insignificant, has an inner cause, a psychic aggregate or ego, which must be observed in the 3 centers: brain, heart, and sex. The practical life is a wonderful school where we can discover the inner demons we carry. Gnostic teachings are essential for esoteric work, urging the study of Gnosis and the practical ideas presented for serious self-work. However, one cannot dissolve a particular ego without first observing it. Observation allows a ray of light into our interior. Each ego expresses itself differently in the head, heart, and sex, and observing these centers in relation to others helps self-discovery. Prayer in psychological work is fundamental for dissolution, requiring a power higher than the mind, appealing to the Divine Mother for ego dissolution. Failure to recognize and dissolve the ego condemns any attempt at liberation to failure. And